Welcome back, everybody. Today's deep dive is going to be pretty interesting. I think we're going to be looking at cybersecurity at UC Health here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So, UC Health is really known for being on the cutting edge of a lot of medical advancements, doing a lot of research, really pushing boundaries.
Absolutely.
But that also means that in today's world, they've got kind of a target on their back.
Yeah. It's interesting because you would think that healthcare is probably one of the most important things that we need to protect.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, it's also one of the most vulnerable.
Well, and that's what we're going to unpack today.
Yeah.
We've got a really interesting source for this deep dive. There's a risk assessment from Eastern Kentucky University that uses UC Health as a case study.
Right.
And it really gets into the nitty-gritty of the potential vulnerabilities, the threats they face, and the controls that they've got in place. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to dig into. When we talk about cyber threats, in this context, what are we really talking about? What are the assets that UC Health needs to be protecting?
Well, there's the obvious ones.
Yeah.
Right? Like their entire clinical systems infrastructure, all of the software that's managing patient care.
Right. So everything from scheduling appointments to handling electronic medical records.
Exactly. All of that stuff. So imagine if those systems were to go down or be compromised in some way.
It'd be chaos.
Our surgeries, delayed treatments interrupted.
Yeah.
It could be a real nightmare for patients.
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest, it's not just inconvenient,
Right.
It's life or death in some situations.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's the patient data itself.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking incredibly sensitive stuff here, not just, names and addresses.
Yeah.
But medical histories, test results, all that deeply personal information.
Exactly. And the risk assessment points out this really chilling detail, which is that their backup systems, their disaster recovery plan may not be as robust as it needs to be.
Oh, that's scary.
For instance, they question whether the backup data is stored in a geographically diverse way.
Oh, so in multiple locations.
Right, so that if there's a disaster in one place...
Which doesn't wipe out everything.
Exactly. Or what about the recovery time objective? How quickly could they get those systems back up and running after a major incident?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are really critical questions that they need to address.
It makes you realize how fragile, even with all of our technology, how fragile these systems really are. Mm-hmm. And it's not just patient care that's at risk. They're developing new treatments, new procedures. Mm-hmm. All of that research data, that intellectual property, that's got to be a prime target for cyber criminals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the report talks about the potential for hackers to steal that valuable research data.
Right.
Which would disrupt years of work and potentially set back medical advancement.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the blueprints for a groundbreaking new cancer treatment or a revolutionary surgical technique.
Yeah.
All gone in an instant.
That's terrifying.
It's a huge risk.
So we're talking data breaches, we're talking potential crippling disruptions to patient care, and we're talking theft of intellectual property.
Right.
Are there any other threats that they need to be worried about?
Well, the report specifically mentions supply chain vulnerabilities.
Okay.
So UC Health, like a lot of healthcare organizations, relies heavily on automated systems to manage medical supplies.
Right.
But what happens if those systems are compromised?
Yeah.
Imagine a cyber attack that delays critical supplies from reaching the hospital.
Wow.
That could have a ripple effect throughout the entire organization.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about how interconnected everything is these days.
It really is.
A problem in one seemingly, isolated area can just cascade and create chaos everywhere.
Absolutely. And we haven't even talked about the human element here.
Oh, right.
Insider threats, whether intentional or unintentional, are a constant concern.
Like somebody clicking on a phishing email or something like that?
Yeah.
Exactly. An employee clicking on a phishing email could inadvertently open the door to ransomware.
Oh, gosh.
Which could cripple entire systems, demand a hefty ransom to restore access.
So they're dealing with external threats from hackers?
Yeah.
Potential vulnerabilities in their own systems?
Right.
And then just the wild card of human error?
Mm-hmm.
It seems almost impossible to stay ahead of all that.
It's certainly a challenge.
Yeah.
But not impossible.
Okay, good.
The risk assessment also delves into the controls that they're implementing to try to mitigate these risks.
Okay.
And there are some encouraging signs there.
Let's talk about those controls.
Yeah.
I'm all for a little bit of optimism after all that doom and gloom.
Sure.
But what are they doing to protect themselves?
Well, one area they're focusing on is cybersecurity training for staff.
Okay.
And not just basic awareness, but more in-depth training that helps employees identify and respond to specific threats.
So like how to recognize those phishing emails and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because even the best security technology can be undermined if employees aren't trained to spot those warning signs.
Right, because the human is always the weakest link.
Often, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so training is one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not just about reacting to incidents, right?
Right.
There's got to be some proactive stuff going on as well.
Absolutely. The report stresses the importance of proactive measures, like penetration testing,
Oh, interesting.
where ethical hackers try to break into their systems to identify vulnerabilities before the bad guys do.
Yeah, it's like giving your defenses a trial run, you know?
Exactly. See where the weak spots are before they can be exploited.
Okay, so they're training their staff, they're testing their systems. Are they doing anything to kind of tighten up access controls?
Yeah, they're implementing more sophisticated access controls using things like multi-factor authentication
Oh, okay.
to make it harder for unauthorized users to get into sensitive systems.
So all of that is good news, right?
It is.
They're taking it seriously.
They are.
But are those measures enough?
Well, the risk assessment does raise some concerns about the level of detail in their incident response plan.
Okay.
For example, like how quickly they can identify the source of an attack and contain the damage.
Right.
Do they have the forensic capabilities to track down the perpetrators
Right.
and gather evidence for legal action?
Okay.
These are all critical questions that need to be addressed.
It sounds like they're moving in the right direction,
They are.
but there's still work to be done,
Absolutely.
which is, I guess, the story everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
You know, they're not alone. Every healthcare organization is grappling with these challenges.
Yeah.
You know, trying to find that delicate balance between protecting patient data and delivering quality care.
I mean, that's really the crux of it, right?
It is.
It's a tough needle to thread. So we've talked about, the threats they face, the vulnerabilities they need to address, and some of the controls they're putting in place. I'm curious, like, from your perspective, reading through this risk assessment, what stood out to you as kind of the most significant takeaway?
You know, what really struck me was the importance of encryption in protecting sensitive data.
Okay.
The report specifically mentions their use of AES encryption,
Okay.
which is a very robust standard, but it also highlights the complexities of managing encryption keys
Right.
in a large, complex environment like a hospital.
Because if you lose the keys, you lose access to the data.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And that's just one example of the many challenges that they face in securing their systems.
Okay, well, this has been a fascinating, albeit slightly terrifying, deep dive into the world of healthcare cybersecurity. We've only scratched the surface, but I think it's given us a good overview of the stakes involved.
Yeah.
So what else can we unpack about this topic?
Well, we've got a lot more to cover.
Okay.
Let's move on to the risk assessment's recommendations for how UC Health can strengthen its defenses.
Okay.
There's some really interesting insights there about leveraging emerging technologies and fostering a culture of cybersecurity awareness throughout the organization.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's dive in.
All right. So the risk assessment dives into several recommendations for UC Health, and some of them get pretty specific.
Okay.
For example, it suggests exploring the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning to detect anomalies in network traffic.
Oh, so using AI to spot those sneaky hackers trying to slip through the cracks.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I've heard about that kind of technology, but it sounds pretty futuristic. Is it actually being used in healthcare settings right now?
It's definitely gaining traction.
Okay.
AI is particularly good at analyzing vast amounts of data and spotting patterns that humans might miss.
Right.
So that makes it a really powerful tool for threat detection. The report suggests they consider AI-powered security information and event management systems,
Okay.
or SIMs for short.
SIMs. So instead of having like a human security analyst sifting through mountains of logs and alerts, these AI-powered systems can kind of do the heavy lifting.
It's exactly. They can correlate data from various sources, identify potential threats in real time, and even automate certain responses to contain the damage.
So it's like having a superpowered security guard constantly monitoring your network.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. But I imagine there are some challenges with implementing this kind of technology, especially in a complex environment like a hospital.
Absolutely. The report acknowledges the need for careful consideration and planning.
Right.
Before deploying AI-powered security solutions.
Okay.
You know, there are concerns about the accuracy of these systems, the potential for false positives,
Right.
and the need for ongoing monitoring and fine-tuning.
So you wouldn't want to just like set it and forget it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Human oversight is still crucial.
Yeah.
But AI can be a really valuable tool for augmenting human capabilities and helping those security teams stay ahead of the curve.
So AI is one area where they could potentially beef up their defenses. What other recommendations does the report make?
Well, one that it really emphasizes is fostering a culture of cybersecurity awareness throughout the organization.
I'm curious about that. What does a culture of cybersecurity actually look like in practice?
It's about making cybersecurity everyone's responsibility,
Okay.
not just the IT departments.
Right.
It means embedding security practices into everyday workflows,
Uh-huh.
encouraging employees to report suspicious activity,
Yeah.
and providing ongoing training that's relevant and engaging.
So instead of just having like those annual mandatory training sessions that everyone dreads,
Right.
you need to make it part of the daily conversation.
Exactly. The report suggests using a variety of training methods,
Okay.
including things like gamification simulations, interactive scenarios, to make the learning more engaging and impactful.
Yeah, it's like learning by doing right. Experiencing the consequences of a phishing attack in a safe environment,
Yeah.
rather than just reading about it in a PowerPoint presentation.
Exactly. And the report also stresses the importance of clear communication and transparency, keeping employees informed about security incidents,
Even minor ones.
even minor ones. Yeah, that helps build trust
Uh-huh.
and reinforces the importance of vigilance.
It's like that saying, sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Yeah.
Being open about these issues instead of trying to sweep them under the rug
Right.
creates that culture of accountability and continuous improvement.
Exactly. And it can also help prevent future incidents.
Okay.
If employees see that their reports are taken seriously
Uh-huh.
and that action is being taken, they're more likely to speak up when they see something suspicious.
So fostering a strong security culture, investing in AI-powered security tools, it seems like they've got a lot of options to consider.
They do.
But I imagine all of these solutions come with a pretty hefty price tag.
Yeah, cost is definitely a factor.
Right.
And the report acknowledges the need to balance security investments with other organizational priorities.
Of course.
But it also makes the point that the cost of a data breach or a major cyber attack can far outweigh the cost of prevention.
It's that classic case of pay now or pay later, right?
Yeah.
But with much higher stakes.
Exactly, and it's not just about financial costs either.
Right.
A cyber attack on a healthcare organization can damage reputations, erode patient trust, and even put lives at risk.
So the message here is that cybersecurity is not just an IT issue.
Right.
It's a business issue. It's a patient safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it's a societal issue.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And as technology continues to evolve and cyber threats become more sophisticated, the need for these robust cybersecurity measures is only going to become more critical.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I'm particularly intrigued by the potential of AI in cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's so much we can do with this technology.
Yeah.
But we also need to be mindful of the risks and the challenges.
Absolutely.
Right.
AI is a powerful tool, but it's not a silver bullet.
Right.
We need to approach it with a healthy dose of skepticism and ensure that human judgment remains at the forefront of our security decisions.
Okay, well said. What other insights can you share about kind of the complexities of implementing strong cybersecurity measures in a healthcare setting?
Well, one area the risk assessment delves into is the importance of data governance policies and procedures. So these policies define how sensitive data is handled, who has access to it, and what security controls are in place to protect it.
So it's about having clear rules of the road for how data is managed throughout the organization.
Exactly. And the report suggests that UC Health review and update its data governance policies to align with industry best practices and regulatory requirements.
Like IPI.
Like IPI, exactly.
Right. IPI compliance is crucial for any healthcare organization handling patient data. Are there any specific challenges that they face in meeting those requirements?
Well, one challenge is just the sheer complexity of HIPAA regulations.
Okay.
There are numerous rules and sub-rules covering everything from data encryption to patient access rights.
Yeah.
And it can be difficult for organizations to keep up with the latest changes and interpretations.
So it sounds like navigating that regulatory landscape is a full-time job in itself.
It can be, and the consequences of non-compliance can be severe,
Right.
including hefty fines and reputational damage.
So UC Health needs to make sure they've got a strong team in place to handle IPAY compliance,
Yeah,
along with all these other cybersecurity challenges that they're facing.
absolutely. And it's not just about having the right people.
Right.
It's also about having the right processes and technologies in place to support them.
Speaking of technologies, what are some of the tools that UC Health can use to help them meet these IPAY requirements?
Well, the report mentions data loss prevention, or DLP software,
Okay.
which can help identify and prevent sensitive data from leaving the organization's network. For example, DLP software can block emails containing patient data from being sent outside the organization,
Okay.
or flag files containing Social Security numbers that are being uploaded to unauthorized cloud storage services.
So it's like having a digital security guard constantly monitoring for data leaks?
Yes, exactly. DLP software can be a really valuable tool for helping organizations meet IP's data security requirements.
So we've talked about data governance policies, IP compliance, and the tools that can help organizations meet those requirements. What else can we delve into?
Well, the report highlights the importance of regular security audits and assessments.
Okay, so not just relying on that initial risk assessment from Eastern Kentucky University,
Right.
but conducting their own ongoing assessments to identify vulnerabilities and track progress.
Precisely. The report suggests that they establish a formal security audit program
Okay.
with regular internal and external audits conducted by qualified professionals.
So it's like getting a regular checkup for your organization's security posture.
Exactly. Regular audits help ensure that security controls are working as intended, that policies are being followed, and that any new vulnerabilities are identified and addressed promptly.
So it's not just about building a strong defense.
Right.
It's about constantly monitoring and adjusting that defense to stay ahead of the ever-evolving threat landscape.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that requires a commitment to continuous improvement,
Yeah.
a willingness to learn from mistakes, and a recognition that cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. This deep dive has definitely highlighted the complexities of cybersecurity in healthcare.
It has.
And it seems like UC Health, like any organization, needs to adopt a multi-layered approach to protect itself. What other layers can we peel back to kind of better understand this multifaceted challenge?
Let's talk about incident response.
Okay.
So even with the best defenses in place, breaches can still happen.
Right.
So how an organization responds to an incident can make all the difference in minimizing the damage and recovering quickly.
Okay. Incident response, it sounds crucial.
Yeah.
What does an effective incident response plan look like?
Well, the report suggests that UC Health establish a dedicated incident response team
Okay.
with clear roles and responsibilities, trained and ready to handle various types of cybersecurity incidents.
So it's like having a SWAT team for cyber attacks, ready to jump into action at a moment's notice.
Exactly. The incident response team needs to have a clear understanding of the organization's systems,
Right.
data assets, security protocols. They need to be able to quickly identify the source of an attack, contain the damage, and restore systems to normal operations as quickly as possible.
That sounds like a high-pressure job.
It is.
What are some of the key elements of an effective incident response plan?
Well, communication is key.
Okay.
The report emphasizes the importance of having a clear communication plan for both internal and external stakeholders.
So who needs to be notified and when?
Exactly. This includes notifying affected individuals, law enforcement, regulatory bodies in a timely and transparent manner.
Right, because a botched response can sometimes do more damage than the attack itself.
Absolutely. Transparency and clear communication are crucial for maintaining trust and minimizing reputational damage.
So incident response planning, communication strategies, it seems like we're moving beyond the purely technical aspects of cybersecurity and into the realm of crisis management and public relations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity is no longer just an IT issue.
Right.
It's an organizational issue that requires a coordinated effort across multiple departments and disciplines.
This has been an incredibly insightful exploration of the challenges and complexities of cybersecurity in healthcare.
Yeah.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, but I'm sure there's still more to unpack.
Absolutely. The world of cybersecurity is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And there's always something new to learn and consider.
Well, on that note, let's take a moment to kind of shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and explore some of the broader trends and innovations that are shaping the future of cybersecurity and healthcare.
I like that idea. We've talked a lot about the risks and the challenges.
Yeah.
But it's also important to highlight the exciting advancements that are helping organizations like UC Health stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of the most promising developments on the horizon?
Well, one area that's generating a lot of buzz is the use of blockchain technology for securing healthcare data.
Blockchain, isn't that the technology behind cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin?
It is, but its applications go far beyond digital currencies.
Yeah, kind of.
Blockchain's decentralized and tamper-proof nature makes it a really attractive solution for securing sensitive healthcare data.
So how exactly would blockchain be used in a healthcare setting?
Okay, so imagine a scenario where patient medical records are stored on a blockchain network
Okay.
rather than in a central database. This would make it virtually impossible for hackers to alter or steal the data.
Okay.
Because it's distributed across multiple computers,
Right.
and any changes would be immediately visible to everyone on the network.
So it's like having a distributed ledger that everyone can see and verify, making it much harder for anyone to tamper with the data.
Right. And blockchain can also enhance data privacy by giving patients more control over their own medical records.
Okay.
They could choose which healthcare providers have access to their data and track how that data is being used.
That's fascinating. And it seems like blockchain could potentially revolutionize the way healthcare data is managed and protected.
It certainly has the potential to do so.
Yeah.
Of course, there are challenges to overcome.
Like what?
Things like scalability and interoperability with existing healthcare systems.
Right.
But the possibilities are really exciting.
So blockchain is one area to watch. What other emerging trends are you kind of keeping an eye on?
Another area that's rapidly evolving is the use of biometrics for authentication and access control.
Biometrics. So instead of passwords, we're talking about using things like fingerprints or facial recognition to verify identities.
Exactly. Biometrics offers a much more secure and convenient way to authenticate users, especially in healthcare settings where security is paramount.
Yeah, I can see how that would be useful. Imagine a doctor using their fingerprint to access patient records.
Right.
Or a nurse using facial recognition to unlock a medication dispensing system. It seems much more secure than relying on passwords that can be easily forgotten or stolen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as biometric technology becomes more sophisticated and affordable, we can expect to see wider adoption in healthcare and other industries.
So we've got blockchain for securing data, biometrics for authentication. It seems like the future of cybersecurity is full of promising innovations.
It is, and the pace of innovation is only accelerating.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time to be involved in this field, but it's also a time for vigilance and continuous learning.
Well said. As we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways you'd like our listener to keep in mind?
I think the most important takeaway is that cybersecurity is not just a technical issue, it's a human issue.
Okay.
It's about people, processes, and technology working together to protect sensitive data and ensure the safety and well-being of individuals.
It's about creating a culture of cybersecurity awareness.
Exactly.
Where everyone understands the risks and their role in mitigating those risks.
Right. And it's not just about reacting to threats. It's about proactively anticipating and mitigating them.
And that's where that risk assessment process comes in.
Exactly.
Right, because identifying vulnerabilities and putting those controls in place before an attack happens is always the best strategy.
Absolutely, and it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
The threat landscape is constantly evolving, so organizations like UC Health need to be constantly adapting and improving their cybersecurity posture.
So it's a never-ending race to stay ahead of the bad guys.
You could say that, but it's a race worth running.
Yeah.
The stakes are simply too high to ignore.
Well said, and I think this deep dive has given our listener a great overview of the challenges and complexities of cybersecurity in healthcare.
It has, but it's just a glimpse into a vast and fascinating field.
True. And speaking of fascinating, I'm curious, what's one thing you think our listeners should kind of ponder as they continue their exploration of this topic?
That's a great question. I think it would be valuable to consider how technology can be leveraged to enhance security without sacrificing patient care.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about delivering the best possible care to patients.
Exactly. So how do we strike that balance between security and usability?
Yeah.
How do we leverage technology to protect patients without getting in the way of their care?
That's a fantastic question, and one that I'm sure will continue to be debated and explored as technology advances and the threat landscape evolves.
Absolutely. It's a dynamic field.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so intriguing.
Well, on that note, I want to thank our listener for joining us on this deep dive into the world of healthcare cybersecurity. I hope you found it as informative and thought-provoking as we did.
I did.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to discover in the ever-evolving landscape of cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay curious.
So we talked about, some pretty heavy stuff, potential vulnerabilities, those proactive defenses, the role of AI incident response plans.
Right.
It's a lot to take in.
But you mentioned blockchain and biometrics as potential game changers.
Yeah.
Let's kind of dive into those a bit deeper.
Okay.
Starting with blockchain, help me wrap my head around how this could actually work in a healthcare setting.
Okay, so it's still early days.
Yeah.
But the potential is huge. So imagine a system where every time a patient's record is accessed, a transaction is recorded on the blockchain.
Okay.
So it's like a permanent auditable trail.
Oh, wow.
Making it incredibly difficult for data to be tampered with or stolen without anyone noticing.
So no more wondering if someone snooped around in my records without authorization.
Right, exactly.
That's reassuring. But wouldn't that slow things down? I mean, healthcare systems are already complex enough as it is.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's one of the challenges that researchers are working on.
Okay.
Early blockchain systems weren't really known for their speed.
Right.
But newer iterations are getting much faster. And there are ways to implement blockchain strategically. Focusing on the most sensitive data first.
Makes sense. And you mentioned patient control over their own data.
Yeah.
How would that actually work in practice?
So imagine a system where patients have a digital key that's tied to their identity that unlocks their medical records.
Okay.
They could grant temporary access to doctors, researchers, even insurance companies.
Right.
All while maintaining a transparent log of who accessed what and when.
That's a huge shift in power.
It is.
I mean, it puts patients in the driver's seat when it comes to their own health information.
Right.
But let's be realistic. Is the healthcare industry ready for such a radical change?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
There's resistance to change in any industry.
Of course.
Especially when it's complex as healthcare.
Right.
But the benefits of blockchain in terms of security, transparency, and patient empowerment, those are hard to ignore. Early adopters are already emerging. And it'll be interesting to see how this technology unfolds in the coming years.
Okay, let's shift gears to biometrics. You mentioned fingerprints and facial recognition.
Yeah.
Are there any other biometric technologies that could be used in healthcare?
Absolutely. Iris scanning is another possibility.
Okay.
It's incredibly accurate and less susceptible to changes over time compared to fingerprints.
Interesting.
Voice recognition is also gaining traction for authenticating users and even transcribing medical notes.
So it sounds like we're moving towards a world where passwords become a thing of the past.
That's the trend for sure.
Yeah.
Passwords are notoriously insecure, easily forgotten, and subject to all sorts of attacks.
Right.
Biometrics offers a much more robust and user-friendly alternative.
But what about privacy concerns? I mean, people might be hesitant to share their biometric data, especially with healthcare providers.
That's understandable. Transparency and trust are essential.
Yeah.
Patients need to be informed about how their biometric data is being collected, stored, and used.
Right.
And there need to be strong safeguards in place to prevent unauthorized access or misuse.
It seems like every solution comes with its own set of challenges and trade-offs.
It does.
Is there any one technology or approach that you see as like the silver bullet for cybersecurity in healthcare?
Unfortunately, there's no magic bullet.
Yeah.
It's about layering multiple defenses, adapting to new threats, and constantly evolving your security posture. The human element is crucial.
Okay.
Educating staff, fostering a culture of awareness.
Right.
And ensuring that everyone understands their role in protecting sensitive data.
So it's not just about firewalls and encryption algorithms. It's about creating a mindset of security throughout the entire organization.
Exactly. Technology is important.
Yeah.
But it's only part of the equation.
Right.
Ultimately, it comes down to people making smart decisions and taking security seriously.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground from the specific threats facing UC Health to the broader trends shaping the future of cybersecurity in healthcare. Any final thoughts for our listener before we wrap up?
If there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not just about IT departments or security professionals.
Right.
It's about each of us being aware of the risks, taking precautions, and working together to create a more secure digital world.
Well said. A huge thanks to our expert for sharing their insights, and to you, our listener, for joining us on this journey.
My pleasure.
We hope you found it informative and, dare we say, even a bit exhilarating.
A little bit, yeah.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there in the digital Wild West.
Absolutely.